Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
Take exception to. She challenged his claims. Raise a formal objection in a court of law. A call to engage in a contest or fight. A demand by a sentry for a password or identification. A demanding or stimulating situation. They reacted irrationally to the challenge of Russian power. A formal objection to the selection of a particular person as a juror. Ask for identification. The illegal immigrant was challenged by the border guard. Issue a challenge to. Fisher challenged Spassky to a match. Questioning a statement and demanding an explanation. His challenge of the assumption that Japan is still our enemy. Coming into conflict with. Take exception to. A disagreement or argument about something important. He had a dispute with his wife. Have a disagreement over something. Take exception to. Raise a formal objection in a court of law. To make the subject of dispute, contention, or litigation. An occasion on which a winner is selected from among two or more contestants. To make the subject of dispute, contention, or litigation. They contested the outcome of the race. A struggle between rivals. Be engaged in a fight. Carry on a fight. Militant groups are contending for control of the country. Have an argument about something. Maintain or assert. He contended that communism had no future. Succeed in doing, achieving, or producing something, with the limited or inadequate means available. Compete for something. Engage in a contest. Measure oneself against others. To make the subject of dispute, contention, or litigation. The goal intended to be attained, and which is believed to be attainable. The sole object of her trip was to see her children. A tangible and visible entity. An entity that can cast a shadow. It was full of rackets, balls and other objects. Be averse to or express disapproval of. My wife objects to modern furniture. Computing. A discrete item that provides a description of virtually anything known to a computer. In object-oriented programming, objects include data and define its status, its methods of operation and how it interacts with other objects. Express or raise an objection or protest or criticism or express dissent. She never objected to the amount of work her boss charged her with. Grammar. A constituent that is acted upon. The object of the verb. The focus of cognitions or feelings. Objects of thought. The use of language to perform some act. Claim as due or just. The bank demanded payment of the loan. Required activity. There were many demands on his time. Require is useful, just, or proper. This position demands a lot of personal sacrifice. A condition requiring relief. There is a demand for jobs. An urgent or peremptory request. His demands for attention were unceasing. Ask to be informed of. I demand an explanation. Lay legal claim to. Request urgently and forcefully. The victim's family is demanding compensation. Summoned to court. The ability and desire to purchase goods and services. The automobile reduced the demand for buggy whips. The act of demanding. The kidnapper's exorbitant demands for money. A condition or position in which you find yourself. The unpleasant situation, or position, of having to choose between two evils. A job in an organization. Physical position in relation to the surroundings. The general state of things, the combination of circumstances at a given time. The present international situation is dangerous. A complex or critical or unusual difficulty. The dangerous situation developed suddenly. The general state of things, the combination of circumstances at a given time. Wondered how such a state of affairs had come about. The act of expressing earnest opposition or protest. The act of protesting. A public, often organized, manifestation of dissent. Law. A procedure whereby a party to a suit says that a particular line of questioning or a particular witness or a piece of evidence or other matter is improper and should not be continued and asks the court to rule on its impropriety or illegality. The speech act of objecting. Be a signal for or a symptom of. Express the need or desire for. Express the need or desire for. Request the participation or presence of. Gather or collect. Require is useful, just, or proper. Express the need or desire for. She requested an extra bed in her room. The verbal act of requesting. A formal message requesting something that is submitted to an authority. Ask. A person, to do something. I requested that she type the entire manuscript. Inquire for information. I requested information from the secretary. The act of searching for something. A quest for diamonds. Express the need or desire for. She requested an extra bed in her room. Bark with prolonged noises, of dogs. A search for an alternative that meets cognitive criteria. A quest for wealth. Make a search, for. Things that die with their eyes open and questing. Search the trail of, game. The dog went off and quested. Seek alms, as for religious purposes. Express the need or desire for. When you call, always ask for Mary. Increase the likelihood of. Ask for trouble. Bridge. The number of tricks a bridge player is willing to contract to make. Propose a payment. Ask someone in a friendly way to do something. A formal proposal to buy at a specified price. An attempt to get something. He made a bid to gain attention. An authoritative direction or instruction to do something. Invoke upon. Bid farewell. Ask for or request earnestly. The prophet bid all people to become good persons. Make a demand, as for a card or a suit or a show of hands. Make a serious effort to attain something. His campaign bid for the attention of the poor population. Ask someone in a friendly way to do something. Have as a guest. I invited them to a restaurant. Give rise to a desire by being attractive or inviting. Increase the likelihood of. Invite criticism. Request the participation or presence of. The organizers invite submissions of papers for the conference. Ask to enter. We invited the neighbors in for a cup of coffee. Express willingness to have in one's home or environs. Invite someone to one's house. Can I invite you for dinner on Sunday night? A colloquial expression for invitation. He didn't get no invite to the party. Marked by or given to doubt. Showing curiosity. Perplexed, as if being expected to know something that you do not know. A request for information. A request for information. Given to inquiry. An inquiring mind. Assign a specified, usually proper name to. Make a prediction about. Tell in advance. Order, request, or command to come. She was called into the director's office. Utter a sudden loud cry. Pay a brief visit. The mayor likes to call on some of the prominent citizens. The option to buy a given stock, or stock index or commodity future, at a given price before a given date. A demand by a broker that a customer deposit enough to bring his margin up to the minimum requirement. A demand especially in the phrase. The call of duty. A telephone connection. She reported several anonymous calls. A loud utterance, often in protest or opposition. Greet, as with a prescribed form, title, or name. She calls him by first name. Demand payment of a loan. Give the calls to the dancers for a square dance. Get or try to get into communication with someone by telephone. I tried to call you all night. The characteristic sound produced by a bird. Make a demand, as for a card or a suit or a show of hands. He called his trump. A brief social visit. Senior professors' wives no longer make afternoon calls on newcomers. A demand for a show of hands in a card game. After 2 raises there was a call. An instruction that interrupts the program being executed. Pascal performs calls by simply giving the name of the routine to be executed. A request. Many calls for Christmas stories. Ascribe a quality to or give a name of a common noun that reflects a quality. He called me a bastard. A special disposition, as if from a divine source, to pursue a particular course. A visit in an official or professional capacity. The pastor's calls on his parishioners. Call a meeting. Invite or command to meet. The Gainsay conference was called to discuss the final solution. Challenge. Somebody, to make good on a statement. Charge with or censure for an offense. He deserves to be called on that. Challenge the sincerity or truthfulness of. Call the speaker on a question of fact. Consider or regard as being. I would not call her beautiful. Declare in the capacity of an umpire or referee. Call a runner out. indicate a decision in regard to. Call balls and strikes behind the plate. Lure by imitating the characteristic call of an animal. Make a stop in a harbor. The ship will call in Honolulu tomorrow. Order or request or give a command for. The unions called a general strike for Sunday. Order, summon, or request for a specific duty or activity, work, role. He was already called 4 times for jury duty. Read aloud to check for omissions or absentees. Require the presentation of for redemption before maturation. Rouse somebody from sleep with a call. I was called at 5 a.m. this morning. Send a message or attempt to reach someone by radio, phone, etc. Make a signal in order to transmit a message. Hawaii is calling. Sports, the decision made by an umpire or referee. He was ejected for protesting the call. Stop or postpone because of adverse conditions, such as bad weather. Call a football game. Utter a characteristic note or cry. Blue jays called to one another. Utter in a loud voice or announce. He called my name. Attractiveness that interests or pleases or stimulates. His smile was part of his appeal to her. Request for a sum of money. An appeal to raise money for starving children. Earnest or urgent request. An appeal for help. Be attractive to. The idea of a vacation appeals to me. Request earnestly, something from somebody, ask for aid or protection. Appeal to somebody for help. Cite as an authority, resort to. I appealed to the law of 1900. Challenge, a decision. She appealed the verdict. Law. A legal proceeding in which the appellant resorts to a higher court for the purpose of obtaining a review of a lower court decision and a reversal of the lower court's judgment or the granting of a new trial. Their appeal was denied in the superior court. Take a court case to a higher court for review. He was found guilty but appealed immediately. A challenge to defend what someone has said. The act of hostile groups opposing each other. The government was not ready for a confrontation with the unions. A hostile disagreement face to face. A bold challenge. A focused comparison, bringing together for a careful comparison. Discord resulting from a clash of ideas or opinions. Radically new or original. The trait of being willing to undertake things that involve risk or danger. A challenge to do something dangerous or foolhardy. Disposed to venture or take risks. The most daring of contemporary fiction writers. Intentionally contemptuous behavior or attitude. A defiant act. A hostile challenge. As by a sentry. A challenge to defend what someone has said. A glove with long sleeve. A form of punishment in which a person is forced to run between 2 lines of men facing each other and armed with clubs or whips to beat the victim. To offer or accept a challenge. A glove of armored leather protects the hand. The convergence of 2 parallel railroad tracks in a narrow place. The inner rails cross and run parallel and then diverge so a train remains on its own tracks at all times.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.